Hello, my friend. Welcome. I hope you're having an outstanding day because every day that you can tune in is an outstanding day. Am I wrong? I don't think I'm wrong. Today, I have another amazing human being, and today is oh my gosh, I almost said it wrong. Daniela Hoffmann, even though it's a super easy name. So, Daniela, welcome.
Hi,
Hi,
Eva.
and you are a consultant and mentor, and you operate a I love that it's a mindful co-working space called The Cabin. That is very cool. And I know that there are other things going on in your life very soon. But um, going backwards a little bit,
Mhm.
how did you get drawn into creating this space for
Mm.
mindful co-working? And maybe you can tell people a little bit about how it's different than other co-working.
Sure. Yeah. And it's so interesting because I created the cabin about over 2.5 years ago now, almost 3. And it is still so present. And it surprises me how present it is for me and how much I need it. And I do believe actually that the things that bring us the greatest satisfaction, especially like in the things we build, are the things that we need.
Right.
And they're probably always something that you need to come back to. And I felt it a lot today with the cabin. So, and I think that's kind of gets me to why is it mindful co-working, or what makes it different to other co-working? Um, so I always loved co-working. I thought I love co-working cafes. Pre-pandemic, it was a place I felt at home, and leaving corporate in 2017, that was sort of my place. I didn't have an office anymore, and I've found it in co-working spaces. And then I think I tried an online one once the pandemic came along.
Hmm.
And I really liked that because it was different to a co-working space, because you come there with a piece of work that you're maybe stuck on, or you just procrastinate on. And I'm sure everyone can relate to that, or many can
Absolutely.
relate to that. And you bring that along, and then within the space of, and I think that was 30 minutes at the time. Within 30 minutes, I've done so much that I've never really, I just didn't experience that before. Because
Even
you
though it
said,
was virtual, right?
yeah, even though it was
Like,
virtual, but you felt like you were watched by others. And there is actually a thing called body doubling, where just the presence of someone else makes you more likely to do something. Um, so that, and also the time, like there was a time box there. I didn't have all day. I just, that could have sort of, I have 30 minutes for this. And then the distraction-free space, so no phones, and like kind of just being with the task and setting an intention. I want to work on XYZ. So I loved everything about it, apart from the fact that it felt like, okay, this is like it felt so masculine. It felt so, we're here to work and this is the only thing that matters. Forget about everything else. And that's so difficult. It's so difficult to forget about everything else, even if we're in like this focus space.
it felt very corporate, I imagine.
Very much. And I was
Right?
like, I loved it on the one hand, and it nourished something in me. But then on the other hand, I was like, well, am I not just kind of falling back into this? How many tasks can I fit into a day, and how many things can I get done, and how good do I feel about myself having done all these things? And I love the concept, but I didn't like the way it was done. And at the time, I was so very sort of quite deep into my mindfulness journey myself. I did a mindfulness meditation teacher training at the time, and I just thought, maybe you can connect the two, and that's what I've done. So each session has both elements. It has the sort of softer, more flowy, perhaps if you want to call it feminine energy, and then it has the masculine energy of the work. And so the mindfulness element is really, we'll start with some movement, then there'll be a meditation that takes you usually to a cabin, or it takes you just to a different space. So it's more like a visualization. Then
Your
we
own
set
cabin.
intentions, your own cabin, yeah, whatever that looks like. Because obviously I give people like a path to it, but if they were to draw it or take a picture of it, it probably looks very different to mine. And and then we kind of go into the work session, and my working sessions are usually 52 minutes, which is a bit random, but it's proven to be a point where, like, it's after 52 minutes, we will lose usually focus quite easily. And before, sometimes it just takes us a little while to get into things, especially when they're deep work. And after we come back, and there's always like a reflection connection element. I often put people into breakout rooms so they can meet one-on-one and just talk about the session and maybe whatever else came up. And I think that's the beauty about it, because it's not just about a work, but it's also, how do I feel doing what I'm doing? What's distracting me? What's really kind of underneath? So it's not just a pure workspace. And, kind of drawing the circle back to today, I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine. We meet every Friday, and we sort of, I would call each other, or would call her, the conversations we have. It's kind of like an empathy Friday get together.
Right.
And she listens to me and I listen to her. And I just said to her, look, I know all this, and I know how to do mindful work or be more in the being and not just in the doing. But right now I feel I'm so much in the doing. And
Right.
so it takes me back to it every single week, to, how do I really want to work? How do I want to be in the world? Yeah, so it's
And it's true, like,
beautiful.
sometimes you need that, um, the we have to go back and you have to tell me what that mirroring thing is. But, we do know all of the things I'm generalizing, but quite often we know what we need to do, and we can't figure out why we're not doing it. And sometimes you just need to borrow the energy of other people to help you focus. That's why people hire personal trainers, that's why people do all of these things, go to meditation classes. Meditations
For
are
sure.
always more powerful as a group, even I think online.
Mhm.
Like I
Definitely.
wondered when we first started, because I did my meditation facilitation certification like 15 years ago, and the group meditations were always very powerful. And then when the online started, I'm like, oh, I don't know, but but you still make these connections even though you're geographically far apart.
Mm.
And so this is a scientific thing, this body mirroring, is that what you called it?
I think it's called body doubling,
Oh,
and I'm
body
actually,
doubling.
yeah, body doubling. Not really sure where that comes from, but it's basically the presence of another person. It could just even be also in a coffee shop, just the presence of other people, but usually to kind of doing a similar thing. I think then it works best.
Right.
So sometimes it's almost like and that sounds maybe not so nice, but it's like you're being watched. So you're more likely to do things in a different way, or you're more likely to stick to doing what you said you would do.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is true. I mean, if you see people who work out, like, and I'll admit to this, working out at home versus at the gym, even though nobody's actually looking at me, I'm like, I'm going to do an extra rep. Somebody might be looking.
Or you stand up a bit straighter, or
Yes, yes.
yeah, totally.
And the cabin, because I know
Mm.
you're on the other side of the ocean from me,
Yeah.
because I looked up your sessions and they look amazing, but I think they're like 3 in the morning for me.
Some of them are free in the morning for you, but yeah, I have, over this sort of period of 2.5 years, I do have a few people over in the US, in Canada, and there are some times, like Tuesdays are always the free, like the kind of the free sessions. So for Tuesday, there's always one in the morning, that's European mornings, and then there's one that's European sort of afternoon, late afternoon, which then works well for anyone based in North America.
Right. Yeah. And so there's a movement, there's a meditation, and then you get to your tasks. And I guess 52 minutes. I love that it's just a weird number like that. 52 minutes. Exactly. Approximately and exactly.
Yeah.
Because I know, have you ever heard of the Pomodoro technique?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It uses what, I think 20-minute blocks or
I
something.
think it's 25, 20-minute,
25.
5-minute break,
Yeah.
and then again.
Yeah. But do people turn their cameras off, or do they leave them on?
No, I think that is also, I encourage people, and I don't think, apart from maybe a few times, or when people maybe need to go to the toilet or someone's interrupting, or they may switch them off, but usually I encourage people to leave their cameras on, again, for the same effect of like, okay, you're not being watched, but we
You're all
know
still
you're
in the
here.
room. Yeah.
And also it creates a level of safety, like it's that, everyone else is kind of in the space, and people are working, and no one's filming you or anything weird's happening, so it creates
everybody's in their cubicles. Our
Basically.
cubicles have gotten very small. They're like the size of a box now.
Yeah, or in their cabins, really. Like I share backgrounds. Currently, we have one of like a Norwegian winter where snow is falling in the background and a little fire is going. So
That's so
we all have the
cool.
same background usually. So we feel like we're in the same place.
Right? Yeah, that's amazing. And I guess it's been growing, because 2.5 years, like, this is popular.
Yeah, it's growing, but it's growing slowly, or it's
Right.
grown slowly, and that's kind of by design as well. And plus, I've been also doing other things, so it's not my main focus, but it's always been a focus, and a strong enough focus so that I carried on. And I think it's like, because if you are looking for just accountability and getting stuff done, then this might not be the place for you. And I've had many people try it over the years, but it didn't work for them, because maybe they have a very set practice around like kind of their morning routine, and it kind of overlaps into that as well, because of the meditation, because of the movement. And for some people it really works, and for some people it doesn't. And
as with everything, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What kind of movement is it?
It's more sort of stretches, and sometimes it's like usually it's just stretches, because we know you're sitting in front of your computer and you don't often move when you do that.
Yes.
And so I think it's just a great way to just reconnect with your physical being, and to have at least done a few things to warm your body up as well.
Right. I also, I always, so I'm teaching a group session right now about, holistic wellness and all of the pieces that you need. And, you want to have good community and good support, and financially supported. But I always say that if your body is not well, that takes everything down, because that's going to take all of your attention. So when things aren't working well, in whatever realm of your world it is, go and give yourself a little bit of movement every day, because that's going to help, first of all, free up your thought patterns. I mean, when you're moving your body, your brain rewires a little bit, and you feel better, so you can think clearer and you can approach things from a healthier way. So I love that you put in movement. I love putting movement in all of my workshops, because people do spend too much time in front of their computer.
Yeah. And again, like, it's, if I'm coming back to myself in a day without the cabin, because there are some days when I don't run it, usually Wednesdays, and sometimes Fridays. I do find myself sitting down and just working a lot more than that than on a cabin day, for sure.
Is there cabins every day?
Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Every month we have like a long, like 3 hour whole morning, and that one was today, and I love it so much, so much. Energizes me more than anything. It's so wonderful.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a lot of cabining. Is there and do you find that there's a certain type of person who is drawn into
Mm,
this mindfulness to
yeah.
work?
Yeah, totally. And this is what I said, like
It's
it
not for
attracts a
everyone, but
certain
yeah.
kind of person. It is primarily people who work for themselves, someone who has just maybe like a one-man show, one-woman show usually. So yeah, mainly women. We have a few men, but very few. So many women come along, and yeah, they work for themselves, and even if it's just like kind of they have an element of their work working for themselves, or they have a creative project they're currently working on, or they're exploring something. um, it's the people without teams, the people who don't
Right.
have anyone else, like no colleagues, and like because it has this community, this underlying sort of connection and community piece.
And I
So yeah,
like the
it's
interaction piece too. Like I've been to co-working spaces where you started with what you were going to work on, your intention. The one that I went to, she did emotion code. So you would tell her what you were going to work on. She would check in and clear your emotion blocks for the day for that task. And then you would turn off your camera and go and do it. And
mm,
and when you come back at the end, you say what you got done. Um, Hopefully you got what you needed to get done. But I like the interaction piece of going to the breakout rooms because it's almost like networking, but it's also, support of this is
totally.
what I struggled with and having a conversation. It's almost like you just step into someone's office and say, hey, this isn't working. Can you give me a hand?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And these are really like it's almost when you look at a session, and often the energy can go down towards the end, but it helps it to bring up the energy
Oh, when
when you
they,
connect with
right.
one another just before you leave.
That's amazing.
Hmm.
And pardon me, the I think I'm finding that many people think they want to work from home, even when they're working in corporate. They think they want to work from home, but at the same time, you miss, unless you're, that's even I think serious introverts at some point would miss human contact. But I feel like this is almost like filling this hole in the middle between
Hmm.
having to be in the office or just being at home alone,
Totally,
right?
absolutely, yeah. It's like the water cooler moment in a kind of nice way recreated.
And is there anything that you find has grown out of this? So you created this amazing place for people to come and work, but what else has grown out from this?
Well, it started with single sessions. It started all like as just a bit of a experiment, and these were free sessions for a very long time. And then the what I call now the intensives that run once a month on a Friday, they've grown out of it, and they are actually like right now these I just love a lot more than the single sessions, purely because you are in this, as I said, we leave the Zoom room on and it's live for the whole duration. So it's about over 4 hours.
Wow.
And we're all in one space. So it really does feel like you're all in the same space, even though everyone's like spread, usually across Europe. And it's just That is so fantastic. Like you get to know someone on, because you see people in the single sessions and you see them come back and you get to know them a little bit, maybe for the breakout rooms. But I think these intensives are, you're firstly with them in a session for like free consecutive sessions. And then also at the start, we do a longer introduction. So you get a feel for people and everyone is in the same room. So I love them so much and have so much appreciation for everyone who turns up and everything that happens. It's a very magical space, because a lot can happen, a lot of emotions can come up and lots of laughter, like so many things.
And 4 hours is a long online session
Yes.
to be
Well, we
managing.
have breaks in between. I think so again, I think when you do intensive deep work, you need breaks. You need
Yeah.
breaks. And again, like from what I read, the 52 minutes is usually followed by 17-minute break. That's kind of the optimum. No one ever does that, I think. So we do 15 minutes in these longer sessions. So we do 15 minutes so people can step away, have a little break, and then come back. So this is one thing that came out of it. And I think ultimately it's like the way I approach work now, or try to, kind of sometimes falling back into my old ways. But in general, it's for me on a personal level, the way I like to work now. And I think it's probably, again, also for me, a reason why I've went more into somatic and like embodiment work,
Right.
because I've noticed the importance of the kind of balance between the doing and the being.
Right. Yeah. The being, if we can incorporate more being into our lives, the doing isn't so like difficult somehow.
100%.
And I think this is going to be like a revolution in how people work. If people can find a way to work in this, like, not everybody is going to want to sit and meditate. I get it, but there's different ways to meditate, as we know. Even Tai Chi, you could move and meditate at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like a couple thoughts are going through my head. So one is like, this is a new way to approach work, and work has always had this negative connotation, oh, I have to go to work and work-life balance, and I'm doing too much work. But if you could get that focus, that intention, and that mindfulness, then you don't have to necessarily work as much as you think you do. And then I'm just remembering some number that came to like the work day, the 8-hour work day was made up. It's just a made up number because the unions wanted to change the way that people were working. I think it was in North America. It was like, so we'll have 8 hours for sleeping, 8 hours of free time, and 8 hours of work. And that's how they split it up. But there was some study that says people are actually only effective, I think, 4 hours. So it's interesting that your intensive is 4 hours.
If you really break it down, it's actually only 3 hours because we do have the breaks. So it's free 52-minute hours. But we honestly like 4 sessions. I think this is all really like of deep work, non-interrupted work. This is really only what our system can manage. Anything more than that, it's not work. And if you like, it's shallow work. I think Cal Newport, I'm not sure if you know him, but he described it really well in his book Deep Work, where he talks about deep work, which is sort of challenging. It's like at the edge of your comfort zone. And then you have the shallow work, which is emails, which is things that you can do when you're really tired. It doesn't need so much of your attention and focus, because focus, like it's finite. It's not, we don't have 20, okay, take away sleep. We don't have the whole, the same amount of energy or attention that we can give to something in the morning, the same amount that we can give to something in the evening. If we do this at the same level the whole day, it just doesn't work like that.
You just end up burning out.
Yeah, totally.
And you can see people who they struggle because I think that we do it backwards. I think they they do the simple work, pardon me, of trying to like, I need to clear my inbox. I need to do all this stuff that doesn't take a lot of thought, where that's when they might have their most energy of the day.
Yes, because it
And
depletes you too. Shallow work depletes you too.
yeah,
And I think, again, coming just back to the mindfulness piece, what I'm really trying to build into this, it's like be conscious about this. It's like, what are you taking to the session? Are you just doing tasks because there's something you're avoiding? Is there fear? What is there? And
right.
so it's not just, as I said before, it's not doing work for the sake of work, but it's like, there's so many things, so many clues, so many just tiny thoughts or whatever it may be that come up when you work, and you can either push it down or you can let it come up and rise and make a note of it or just be with it in that moment. And
Right.
that's what I encourage more people to do.
And if you can do that, you will be more effective getting the things that really need to be done. I feel like a lot of things we think we need to do, we don't need to do.
Mhm.
And they take up
Oh
all of our
yeah,
time.
yeah,
And not everyone wants to face this, but why are you avoiding doing that thing that's hanging around, you know? And people will say, "Oh, I'm procrastinating," but there's a reason. There's a
exactly.
reason,
Yeah,
and
that
it's
is
not that
just
you don't
yeah.
have enough time.
Yeah,
Right?
so true. But
Until you find it.
it's not easy. It's so not easy. And on some days it's easier, and on some days it's impossible. But
But that
even
doesn't
finding
mean you
that
shouldn't do it,
kindness, yeah, yeah, for
right?
sure. But still finding also that kindness and the compassion that maybe on some days you just have to do the easy stuff
Yeah,
because it's all you can do. It's all your system is able to do that day.
and be okay
And
with
that's
that.
okay too. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
I mean, people give themselves such a hard people when they're struggling with something, and you've probably seen this, that they don't understand why they're just not doing it. And they give themselves such a hard time. And sometimes it's just because they've been making themselves work so hard for so long that they don't need just a 15 minutes off. They need like 15 days off, you know?
Yeah.
And how many
15
people
years.
actually take a full vacation,
Oh, yeah. I mean,
right? Especially
yeah.
entrepreneurs. I mean, even I was guilty that when I was away at the end of 2023 in
Mm.
December, that I still, not every day, but I would go and check for emergencies every now and then.
And that is also an interesting point because why do you do that? What
Right?
emergency
Could
really
possibly happen.
is there? Yeah. And so that is also very interesting to observe because I actually took a month off in August. The first time in 9 years that I took such a long time off. And halfway through this almost need to check in, to look, maybe there's something. But really what was for me underneath that is this, I didn't want to be replaceable. There was
Mm,
this sort of, what if people forget about me?
right?
Um, like all sorts of things came up. But if I would have given in and looked at the emails and did XYZ, I couldn't have been with this fully. So yeah, these things are such gold to,
Oh, that's
if
good.
we
That is,
have the capacity, can we be with that? Can we be with this feeling, with the sensation, to see what's underneath rather than by just going into work? Because work is such an easy thing to mask what's really going on.
and it's such an easy thing to fill all of your time with.
Totally.
right? I'm just remembering I read a book by, I can't remember her name. It was called 24/6.
Mm-hmm.
So, because not everybody's ready to take a whole month and not check anything. But the book 24/6 was about taking one day, 24 hours every week, screen free.
Beautiful.
So, no TV, no YouTube, no phone, nothing. And it takes like her book explains how to, plan it out, because if you're so used to Googling where's the restaurant or your calendar, she says you have to write your calendar down on a piece of paper. And if you need to keep track of something. And I was joking with someone the other day. I was in a restaurant and we were waiting for people and said, maybe we should text them. I said, well, let's pretend it's the olden days where when they walk through the door, they'll be here. They don't have to say, we're parking the car. We're leaving the parking lot. We're coming through the door. I mean, it's a bit comical, but this is kind of where we've gotten. So 24 hours once a week, free of all electronic devices. And it was so fascinating because we did do it. And it's funny how we stopped doing it. Well, it's not funny, but we were doing it and I was so rested on those days. And I had projects that had been hanging around that were suddenly getting done. Like I wanted to sew something and my sewing machine was suddenly right there, just waiting for me. We stopped doing it because I had a stroke and I only had a limited capacity of time to be on a computer regardless. So I was almost like screen free anyway, but I think it's a good practice. And if you can't figure out how you could possibly fit that into your day, Tiffany Schlane, that's what her name was. I need to come back. 24/6 is a fascinating book to help you ease into how to de-electronicize. That's not a real word, but you know what I mean. And it's interesting. Like I feel like The Cabin is screen time, but at the same time, I don't feel like it's screen time the way that scrolling Twitter is screen time.
Yeah. Let's call it conscious screen time.
Conscious screen time, right? I love it. I love it. And where can people find you?
There is a website. It's called Mindful Coworking, or oneword.com.
Beautiful.
And I think that's probably the best address.
Yes. And it's going to be in the show notes. So it's all good. And is there anything, well, I always give the guest the last word for final words of wisdom or anything that you feel called to share.
I feel a little bit put on the spot right here. And with that, what do I want to say? I think it's just that, like right now, I'm feeling put on the spot. I could just continue talking and I could just make something up that sounds sort of clever, but maybe here I just want to say, whenever these things, these feelings, thoughts, sensations come up as you work, if you can and have the capacity, try to listen to them.
Right.
Because they have something important to say.
That's a beautiful lesson right there. Thank you so much, Daniela, for joining me and sharing this new way of working. I love it. I think that it's fabulous. Friends in podcast land, whether you're working or not, I know some of you are retired, but you still have your own work that you enjoy doing, your beloved vocations. But imagine approaching it in a mindful way. That is just so, the energy behind that is just so much better. Have a beautiful day, my friends. Share this with someone you love, and we'll see you